All right, good night and welcome to Just a Conversation. Man, in the midst tonight, we have none other than Minister Amon, Brother Matthew, Minister Hayden. We got Evangelist Chaniel in the mix tonight, and also my man, my friend, the author of Disqualified is back, Dr. George Fabre. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Just a Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to like. Also, you can find us on every podcast platform that's out there available. Just type in Just a Conversation, and there you go. But yeah, man, it's been an awesome week. You know, I've been relaxing all week. I'm actually loving it. I'm enjoying it. So I don't know. Like anybody else, like, you know, all y'all working people, you know, I actually got a break this week, and I'm taking it. I'm using it. You know, I'm going to lay around all day. You know, I want to be like, you ever see Al Bundy?
Oh, man.
Al Bundy used to be in his white tights. Just laying around all day. You know, there's really nowhere to go or anything like that.
Good drink.
Yeah, nowhere to really go and nothing to do. So, you know, I'm just enjoying it, making the best of it right now. So, Matthew, let's talk. What's the topic?
It's crazy. Why some women use sex to control a relationship.
Amen. So, we're going to dive right in it tonight. You know what I mean? Our awesome friend is here. You know, like I said, he wrote an awesome book you can find on Amazon, which is called Disqualified. You know, don't forget to check it out, man. It's an awesome read. You know, and
thank you.
Yeah, have you ever encountered that, brother?
Absolutely. you have to be very.
Absolutely.
You have to be. No, I'm not gonna say the absolutely, but I will say this. Fortunately, I have a good one. You know, I have a good woman. You know, I can't say that that's really my situation, but. You know, you have friends and counterparts or, you know, guys you communicate with on many levels. And we live in a society where I had this conversation a couple weeks ago on another show discussing the alpha woman. And when you talk about the alpha woman, they're taking preeminence. And there's nothing wrong with a strong woman. But the problem with some women, I think, in some cases, because they know their worth and value, they use that as a tool to take advantage and kind of become manipulative to some degree. Yeah. So when you're talking about someone using something that they know is an individual's weakness, because we all know sex is a man's weakness by nature. Every 15 seconds, a man will turn and look at a woman or get distracted by appearance. That's scientifically proven. You can't even deny. A woman passes by 15 seconds. We're that bad. We don't know how to suppress or control our hormones, our desires, if you may. So, you know, oftentimes we have the propensity to just look. Yeah. You know, even those of us who are even in committed situations, we just like to look. Yeah. And then we use then it starts with a look, then it then expands. But we use that excuse to justify the look and say, "Oh, we just looking as long as you don't touch." But that, you know, that's how it starts. But I will say, in all honesty, having conversations about that, and we know a lot of women are now more independent. Our society's built on that. That's now the infrastructure of society. An independent woman, strong woman, and if you're not that, it's like as though you're not meeting the status quo of being a woman. Yeah. So now that a lot of women have more opportunities, and it's a beautiful thing because I do believe in equal opportunity. I do believe in a woman's role in society because, you know, when you speak of a woman in the Bible, a woman's always mentioned in different capacities. But one capacity, I will say, especially when the scriptures talk about wives submit to your husband, that scripture is always misinterpreted. But, you know, it actually means wives are the administrators for their husbands, which means they administrate. So a woman who administrates a household, that's one who manages, make sure things are intact, keep things in control. Because when you're the shepherd of a flock or shepherd of more than one, you have to pay attention to certain things, and there are certain things that can get drift away or lose control, but that's where you need someone to manage. So the point I'm making is because a lot of women know their power and the value that they have, I believe, especially in church, that the divorce rate that was 68%, but that has increased since the pandemic. I believe. because now we have to face the reality. The reality is we now have to be home. Some of us are working remote, so we don't have to spend. When you're away, you miss the individual. Now you're in the same vicinity for. It's no longer. It's no longer 2 to 3 hours of the day you both are spending time together, and then you sleep for 8 hours.
No, it's 24 hours.
Now 24 hours with that same individual, and now you get to see them with all of their ways, the bad, the good, the bad, the ugly. So. What has happened is oftentimes a lot of women has used that power because they know they have that power, and there's nothing wrong with having that power. But in anything that's not balanced, it becomes abuse.
Yeah. Nice.
So what ends up happening is these women, they know their worth, they know who they are, and that's good. As I will never, expect otherwise, because I'm a girl dad, if you may. I have 3 daughters, so I know how that works. I'll never tell my daughters, make sure you put your head down when you're with them. No. I want her to know her worth, right? Or lower her standards, or lower their standards.
The Bible said they're far above rubies. So
exactly. It's knowing your worth right there, because rubies are expensive.
Exactly.
So I do believe that when an individual uses sex to kind of restrain a man or to get control, it's a control thing. And it becomes manipulative. And there are a lot of relationships that are getting destroyed. And if you want to be honest, that's why the divorce rate is where it is. And that's why cheating, not only between men, not only men cheating, but women cheating, because they know they have that power, has increased to 63%. So it's causing so much discrepancies in the world of relationships, where now relationships just have no substance.
Right.
No, that's true.
It's just watered down. It's just, we're in it for whatever it is. It could be convenience. It could be just 2 roommates, because the bills have to get paid, or you have children together.
Like what the millennials say now, it's called relationship goals.
Right.
You'll post all these memes, like they're on a jet, or they got the Bentley or the money or whatever, that's relationship goals. So that's what they're looking at, really.
Right. That's the image presented.
The wealth that you could get out of it, and not really the love, that it's supposed to be. It's just okay, what am I going to get out of this relationship?
Right.
So relationship goals is we get this wealth, and then now we're good, we're happy. But what happens if you don't, get the wealth, and then the relationship's just over?
Right. Right. And a lot of relationships have ended once that has happened. Not everyone can handle rock bottom.
No.
When you met somebody when they were at their high, and then that individual encounters that rock bottom space, it takes a certain type of man or woman to sustain or to hang around or survive it.
Yeah.
And this generation is not really one of the many generations, I can honestly say, and I'm not saying it based on assumption. Not only are we a part of it, not only are we watching it, but we work with it. These are the students I deal with. These are the people I counsel. These are the people I encounter on the day-to-day. Many of them can't handle the rock bottom.
Yeah.
And the rock bottom doesn't merely mean only finance, but there's rock bottom from an emotional, because there's a point in your life you're not in love with your mate anymore.
Right.
There's a point in the relationship you're questioning, who did I marry?
Yeah.
Why did I marry that individual? Both men and women. And all of us in church could play that facade and say, God is going to keep us do this, and that's nice. But the truth is, there's times where you question, why in the world did I, put myself in that position? That's why Paul stayed single. People don't want to tell the truth, but Paul stayed single because he understood the severity of a relationship.
Yeah.
Relationships take a lot of work, and he couldn't afford any distractions too, because he was writing 2/3 of the Bible.
He already had his thorn he had to deal with.
The thorn on the side.
He had to pray to God 3 times for that. He's like, man, remove this from me.
Remove it.
But it's something that we touched on, the other day, and I'm gonna bring it up back again today. And when you think about how women and sex, and in the relationship, it always brings me back to whenever you have Valentine's Day or anniversary or something like that. It's they always expect the man to go out, and shop and do all this wonderful thing, and then it's okay, you go out there, you get the gifts, you get all the good stuff for them, but then when you come home, it's okay, where's your gift? It's oh, you're gonna get it later. And
Yeah,
like, really?
the sex is a gift.
Yeah, like it's not a gift.
It's
So when did it become a gift?
right. I think that's part of this whole,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, the imagery of what this time in
Yeah.
relationship means. And we have to understand what the sex is. What is sex? Sex is when two people become one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're telling the person you became one with, I'll give you later. But you're mine. I'm yours. So what do you want me to do?
And then I think a lot of women is like so close-minded that they don't look at men like, say, okay, like, oh, if they stop somewhere and you like see a flower, like, oh, let me take this home to my dude. Like, oh, they look at it like, oh, that's some like soft stuff.
Right.
Like, ain't no man gonna like no flowers. You know,
Right.
ain't no man gonna like this. You know, but you never know. Just like when we stop or we're somewhere and we see something like a bouquet of flowers or whatever it is, you know, we might bring it home and be like, yo, here you go. You know what I mean? So, you know, we thought about you throughout the day. How come you didn't think about us?
Right.
You know, and that is like, to me, like, you know, I always see it like a thing. Like, even like society makes it like a big thing too, because, you know, when you look at Valentine's Day, you know, you see all the heart chocolate and all this, and they're like, oh, I'm not buying my man no chocolate. Like, you know what I mean? What's that? You know what I mean? It's like pretty much stated towards the feminine side. And like Mother's Day, the same thing.
Right.
And when you go in the store and look like Father's Day, you don't see nothing.
Yeah, Father's Day, they put it.
They put it on a little table.
That could be a whole show
like
in
like
itself.
a little table pushed in the corner. Like, okay, that's for the father.
It's like
right
the
there.
culture of the father is
Yeah.
very belittled. The man
Very
doesn't.
belittled.
It's like the man doesn't need anything.
But then I think like women have seen that over the years. They just have that mentality like, okay, they're like he should go out there and buy the gift. He should do this. He should do that. Where to me it's like it is what it is. You know what I mean? And I got him later.
Right.
Like, what is that? Like, you know, show some kind of like appreciation also. And like men need appreciation. I mean, right or wrong?
You're right.
Yeah, like men. You know what
I
I mean?
think
You agree, Donovan?
I think the misinterpretation is they think the gift. They think sex is the gift. A lot of women think sex is the gift. You know, but truth of the matter is, you know, once we're in a covenant, sex shouldn't be the gift at that point.
Right.
Sex should be an obligation between you both to show, hey, listen, we want to, this is intimacy. This is the time where our bodies get to commune with each other. Our bodies get to know one another. Sex became abused, as we see in this day and age, because everybody does it.
Right.
So because everybody does it, you know,
Coming like the norm.
It's like the norm. Like, you know, it's definitely a norm. But I really am a firm believer that a lot of women use sex mostly because of the mere fact that men do not want to have that real conversation with their women.
That's what she likes. So at the end of the day, it might be like she just want to spend time with you, and she's happy with that. Like, men always think like, okay, let me go, you know, do this and do that. When you could probably like get some peanut butter sandwich and a blanket and just go sit on the beach, and they might enjoy that.
Yeah.
You know, it don't cost you nothing. But you know what I mean? Like, if you don't speak to your spouse, like I always say, we need to have adult conversation, you know, when you're in a relationship, so you get to understand each other, so you can move and grow together as one.
Absolutely.
Because, like, you can't just have somebody keep guessing. After 14, 15 years, that person should be keep guessing. You should be like, hey, you know, you always bring this home to me, but really I don't like it. I only enjoyed it because you always brought it. You know, and let them know, like, you don't really like that word, you know what I mean? So the misinterpretation doesn't still linger.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? That's something that we know we should work on as men also. Like, don't be afraid to talk up, you know, and let a woman know, like, okay, listen, like, I don't like this, I don't like that, you know what I mean? Like, you know, only do it because you really like it. Or, you know, Donovan said like a couple weeks back saying that, you know, he's not really just going to do something because he gets satisfaction out of it and his wife don't. It has to be mutual.
Right.
And it makes sense. You know what I mean? You just don't want to get the satisfaction, and then you look at it like, oh, well, that's it. You know, I'm good. You know, that just don't work, you know. So we should all, like to me, like having, like, at this stage and this, like, if you're in a serious committed relationship, you know, having the adult conversation, having the real conversation, so, like, we don't have, like, you know, this kind of issue, or, like, you know, where you have to, like, try to guess,
Right.
you know, what the person like from what they don't like.
This generation doesn't like the truth, though.
I mean, we've become so robotic.
So robotic. This generation, a lot of people, and I don't want to put everybody in the same box, but this generation doesn't want to hear the truth. A lot of times, nobody can handle that transparency or that honesty.
That's true.
You know, if it would have been a great thing if you could sit with your spouse and say, hey, listen, you know what? I appreciate this, that, and the third. You know, the sandwich approach. Compliment, then get to the meat of the and then end on a positive note.
Yeah.
You know, you can't even have a real wholesome conversation with your spouse this day and age because everybody just want to be told how good they are.
Not even, I mean, even like you say spouse, not even friends.
Not even
You
friends.
can't even tell a friend, like, right now, something that they don't want to hear.
Right.
They'll be like, man, they'll ghost you nowadays.
Yeah, and they'll tell you you're judgmental.
Yeah.
They'll tell you that you're just an individual who just wants to put someone down. You just want to do this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
But
anything.
it
You know
is
too much.
you just
think
know
you're
too.
smart.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, we're in a time where if we can't have a real honest, transparent conversation with one another as human beings, just humanity, with civility, it's a big problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's a problem that we can't just say to each other, hey, listen, you know what? I really love everything that you've done, everything you brought to the table. However, this is not really, you know, I don't really appreciate. I feel like I'm at a place where I'm evolving.
Yeah.
I'm growing,
Yeah.
and I want you to come with me. Just like certain conversations you can't even have with your significant other. I've had friends who said that they can't even tell their significant other, hey, listen, you know, babe, let's go to the gym, because if they tell them let's go to the gym, it's a problem. You think I'm fat, you think I'm this, you think I'm that. But if their friend approaches them or a family member approaches them with that, it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
I've had another friend of mine tell me he's been telling his wife for years, hey, this is a certain thing you should consider, and his wife knocked him. But the moment someone else came to her with that, she accepted.
Yeah.
So we're in a society where I think the real foundation of a relationship, just overall, because even before, I know Minister had mentioned what we're discussing, but before we even get into the meat of sex and how it's manipulative, I think overall relationships don't have any value anymore.
Yeah.
I think the overall infrastructure of relationship has to be revisited.
Yeah.
And why does the overall infrastructure of relationship, why does it need to be visited? Because I feel like relationships now are based on convenience.
It is. Yeah.
It was once a love thing. And why is it based on convenience? Because people didn't have all the resources they have now. They didn't have all the options they had now. Why did couples back in the day, their relationships last 45, 60 years? Because people didn't have these certain resources. They were stuck in a certain rural area. They were away from certain populations or away from certain environments that would not open their eyes or expose them to certain things. But now, because of these now modern resources, Google, all this, that, and the third, you name it, the resources are endless. It's like it's taking a toll on the relationships. Look at social media, what social media is doing. Housewives of Atlanta. I remember the very first episode of Housewives of Atlanta. 2.1 million viewers. But the majority of those viewers were between they were women, and they were between the ages of 18 and 24.
But you can look at like what people post now, even like when you think about relationship status. Look at what a lot of people's posting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, especially the one that was going around for a while. This could be us, but
you rather do this.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like if you really look at what they're posting, you really understand the mindset behind it.
Right.
You know, and it's not really like really built on love, like what you said. It's just built on like, it's like a facade, like a show. Yeah. You know, like, you know, this is what I have. You know, this is me. You know what I mean? Instead of like, you know, embracing what you have and loving what you have and saying whatever it is, this is still me.
Yeah. Because love is still patient. Love is still kind.
Yeah.
But our generation now, that patient part,
we don't have it.
We don't have that patient part. I'm telling you, that foundation is because we can talk about the how they withhold certain things, because you know at one point in time, I think it's like a payback to a degree, because men at one time were the only ones working or able to do certain things. A lot of men manipulated women with possessions and money, things like that. Yeah. So it's now like a thing where a woman now is like, okay, I know who I am. Touche. Yeah. I'm going to now repay you with this. I could withhold this from you, and you know, and it's just a matter of us having a real overall development or redevelopment on what a relationship really is.
Definitely. That's where it starts.
That's where it starts. Because you can't discuss the sex component, because we could talk about the sex part all day long. But truth of the matter is, that relationship was probably built on sex.
Yeah, built on the lust.
It was built on the lust.
Yeah.
And then because it was, and a lot of relationships are. And
I thought
then
that's how relationships start.
a lot of them do. But that's not how it should start.
How you say start, Minister, man?
Man, hey, at first, you get what I'm saying? You want to start a relationship off with like a friendship thing. Like I could deal with you. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
I don't
do
think
you
just
think
starts
a
off as
man
sex.
would marry or date or really like get close with their friend?
No, but look what I'm saying. Okay, for instance, like if I'm dealing with you on a sexual level, you know what I'm saying? I can deal with someone else on a sexual level and don't have to deal with you anymore.
Right.
But as I deal with you as a friend and I like being around you, I like going out to dinner with you, I like going to the movies with you, I like going on the beach with you, I do that with you, even if we ain't having sex. You see what I'm saying? Rather than go somewhere that I just want to have sex with you, but I don't want to go to the movies with you. I don't like to kick it with you. I just like to have sex with you.
I'm gonna go left real quick since you're on that part right there. So you're basically telling me that a man could be involved with the opposite sex on a friend tip. There is no sex involved and hang out and do all that.
If that's what they choose to do, like what I loved about my wife was she would act like one of the fellas with me. Like she would keep it real with me. Like she'll do things that like to me, like ladies acting cute, they don't like to get down and eat their food. She'll eat twice my plate. And I'd be like, why you like you ain't holding back nothing, like, you know what I'm saying? She'll even like, you know, joke with me, take it there, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I started respecting that. You know, she'll even put some of my dudes in their place. Like, you get what I'm saying? And I'm like, well, you ain't like, and it was like kind of like me, but not like me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right, absolutely.
And I could have found anyone out there that was not like that. And it didn't attract me like it attracted me with her.
Yeah, because it was different.
Yeah.
But he's absolutely right, because you can get sex from anybody.
That's true.
But one thing for certain, when you learn to go out with somebody, befriend them,
You see?
there's a difference between, you know what, I love that person.
Yep.
I'm vibing with that person, but you actually like them.
Yeah.
That's a thing that a lot of us, we don't like a lot of men don't like their women. They don't like their wife. They don't, because they didn't get a chance to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's just, if everything was offered on a platter and that was the foundation, now, say for instance, you want to develop something serious, it's like, okay, wait, I didn't get to know you on that platonic level.
That's it.
I didn't even know you were into politics.
That's it.
I didn't even know you were into to construction like I am. I didn't know you were into business. I didn't know your aspirations. I didn't know your dreams.
Yep.
Because I was blinded by the physical.
Yeah, exactly.
And the physical just literally drew a delusion of who you are to me.
Hey, that is so true. Because
You know?
you could look at a woman, like say for instance, like she has on like a blonde wig, and you know, you look at the outside part of her, and you're just looking at her like how she's dressed, and you be like, man, that's a freak. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you go in a relationship with that mindset.
Yeah,
like,
with that mindset.
Oh, yeah, I
So
gotta
you
be a
develop
freak.
a preconceived notion.
Exactly, and it might not be like
And
that.
it might not be like that. And you never got to know who that person was.
Exactly.
And they could be a freak for you because of where they at in their life, because they just left something horrible and they're at a vulnerable state. So they became that for you. That makes it worse. Because it depends where you meet an individual.
Yeah.
At what season in their life, at what point in their life.
That's where you'll see them at.
That's where you'll see them as. And then the reality is, you guys could have built a serious empire, but it got ricocheted and blinded by what it was that you didn't allow to develop.
Correct.
Because you didn't go out to eat. You didn't go out to build.
Right.
All you guys did
You
was
spend that,
physical
yeah.
stuff. And then, you know, and honestly speaking, I'm going to be very transparent. There's a lot of good relationships I lost because I acted off of a physical desire.
A lot of us did.
Yeah.
A lot of us.
Yeah.
You know, we act off of physical desires, and these were people that you were supposed to meet, and that individual was going to help you make millions.
Exactly.
But you burned that bridge because the physical took place, and now that person, you and that person can no longer mingle because there was an entanglement.
Entanglement.
You understand? So because that occurred, and there's a lot of women or men, vice versa, you met along your journey or along your path. These people were driven to you just to see how are you going to handle this particular individual, because
Yeah.
that person was going to probably be the one who marketed your business.
Mm-hmm.
That person was going to probably be the person that brought your dreams to fruition. That
Right.
person was the one who was going to be the one to write your business plan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people you meet along the way that was supposed to plant seeds in your life,
Yeah, definitely.
and that was their purpose. But instead, we got caught up on the sexual desires that we have, and truthfully, when Paul was talking about being crucified, the reason why he was talking about being crucified is all he was really saying is suppress that desire.
Right.
Carnal nature.
Suppress that. If you suppress that desire, if you suppress that visual that we mentioned with the blonde wig and all of that, if you
Yeah.
suppress that and look beyond that,
Yes, yes.
if you get to a place where you could suppress that, if brothers got to a place where we were able to suppress that physical desire,
Yeah.
there's so much more we'd accomplish, and there are so many less struggles we'd have
Definitely.
in our journeys. Because none of us should have been struggling in our 30s or even working for anybody for that part in
Yeah.
our 30s or in our 40s. We should have been landowners. We should have been this, that, not because we're not supposed to start somewhere, but we shouldn't have remained to that. But there are so many bridges we burned
Oh, yeah.
because the only focus was sex.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, and I can say for myself, why was that the focus for me in my earlier days, like just sex? Because I was broken. You know, you come out of a situation, you're broken, you're hurt, and
That's the best way to make it up.
you make it up. You're
Yeah.
taking it out on everybody. Everybody's paying the price for the brokenness. And you know why?
Yeah.
We mentioned that when I was here last. Why is that happening? Because people don't want to get therapy. People don't want to get help.
I want to get fixed.
They don't want to get that fixed. People don't want to sit on somebody's chair and say, you know what, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know, not only from a biblical standpoint, but, you know, a psychological standpoint.
definitely.
Someone to say, hey, listen, this is where you're at, and this is how you get away from, you know, this psychoanalytical state that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, that how do you get that psychotherapy? You sit on someone's couch and you get to express yourself. And of course, I get it, because especially us, we learn throughout life to be careful who you share what you share with.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you've been broken or you've been traded on or you've been betrayed.
Yeah.
If you've been in that position,
Yeah.
you just, and then there's always that street code. Don't talk.
Don't
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of us always resort to. We
Right.
just don't want to talk.
Just don't
You
talk.
know, and I was talking to my pastor earlier today, you know what I mean, and we were just talking about, like, I was telling him, like, listen, like, I went and got therapy. I did, like, 8 sessions. And he was, like, taking it back, like, he couldn't believe it. And I go, yeah, like, he's like, other than me? I go, yeah, because I had to try and make him understand, like, when, at the beginning stage, I didn't understand and know the Bible like I know it now.
Right.
So when you're counseling me, you know, you're just pretty much using the Bible, and I just came fresh out the streets, like,
Correct.
you know what I mean? I needed that, like, somebody to, like, really dig into my past and be like, bro, like, you know, and, like, show me some things.
Absolutely.
And, you know, with that, it kind of, like, uprooted everything inside of me and made me want to be a better person, you know, and, you know, it actually made me actually got closer to God, where, you know, it kind of, like, opened my eyes a lot more, you know, and, you know, it actually helped me, like, pretty much all the stage of my life, because, I mean, at that point, I was, like, feeling in everything. You know what I mean? And it ain't just like one area. I was feeling like all over. Like I was just like pretty much came out of the streets, and now you're telling me to start this life over that I don't know.
Right.
I never did this before.
Right.
You know, but I've been doing this for so many years that I'm just attracted to
Yeah.
it. You know, violence was just my thing. I love it.
Things
You
of the
know,
natural, man,
yeah.
was foolishness. So
Yeah.
spiritual is going to be foolishness. So,
So
yeah.
when you're like you're spitting the Bible to me over and over, and I don't understand it, you know, it kind of like put me in a place where it's like, okay, I hear you, but I really don't hear you.
Yeah.
You know, I see what you're saying, but I really don't see what you're saying because I just can't relate to it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I had to like, you know, pretty much find that external help, you know, to help me get through it. And, you know, with, you know, going through that and then now leaning, you know, on God and like, you know, starting, because like once you go through that, you know, it's either you want to be better or you're
Right.
just going to stay where you at.
Absolutely.
You know, because when they pull up some things in your past and you're sitting there looking at like, man, this was struggling, this was bothering me, this is in me, this is in me. You know what I mean? And they start pulling those things out. You know, it kind of like, it frees you up some.
Absolutely.
And it makes your mindset be different. And my mindset got a whole difference. You know, where like my wife would talk to me, I actually sit there and listen now. When before I would never listen.
Right.
You know what I mean? She used to tell me like X, Y, Z, and it's just like, you know, she's like knocking on on a wall.
Right,
Because I just wasn't really receiving it. But then now it brought me to a place where I just started opening up, and I started to read more of the word and started to get more of the word into me. And then when you go through all that, then you start to act on different principles. And then your whole aura and everything about you start to change, and that's why, I would tell anybody, if you feel like you need external, get it, because it can help you. Because I know what it did for me. I know not all men is the same, but it can get you out of a dark place. It got me out of a very dark place where, I was just pretty much struggling between, moving forward in Christ or just going back in the world, and it's like a tug of war. And nobody don't understand that tug of war until you go through it.
Absolutely.
Nobody can understand what you're facing. You can't even, sit there and have a conversation with your spouse and be like, okay, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm battling, this is what I'm facing, because they might look at you like it's an excuse. You understand what I'm saying? Because you've been doing this for so long, you treat me how you treat me or whatever it is, or you just use it as an excuse just to say why you do it.
Right.
And a lot of human beings do that. They look at stuff like, oh, you just use it as an excuse, not knowing that you're really deep down inside, you're really struggling with certain things.
Absolutely.
So we have to look past all those things and get the help that we need as individuals so we could grow. No, if you don't get that help, how you expect to grow? How you expect to get rid of, the past hurt, the past things that have been holding you back? And the Bible tells us, listen, we got to forget about the things behind and press toward the things that's ahead. And, when you're struggling and you're pulling, and you're in a tug of war, and it's hard to just press forward.
Right.
You could do that with a DVD or a CD or a tape all day. Just press forward and go till you get to a music you like.
Right.
But when you're living it, it's like you're in a tug of war.
Right.
And you're just going through it just emotionally. And when you get that help, man, it frees you up. I know what it did for me. It freed me up a lot, and it made me feel, listen, I want to do better. I want to change.
Right.
And it's with your mind that you serve the Lord. So if your mind is still battling, how are you giving the Lord any time to serve Him? When you're just struggling in your mind. So we have to free up our mind and pretty much free up our mind with everything. Like even ladies, to me, a lot of women need to rethink their relationship and rethink everything that they're doing, because don't think sex could fix everything.
Right.
Don't think having a baby could fix everything.
Right.
Don't think I remember somebody came on the show one time and we were talking and they were like, listen, if my man have a bad day, and he comes home, well, if he treats me well, then we both would be happy at the end of the night. And I'm like, that man is having a bad day and he should come home and treat you well. No, if he calls you and say that he's having a bad day, you should be like, okay, what can I do to make his day better?
Right.
Now, this man went out there and faced the whole world today, and he faced a lot of things today. And he's calling you and telling you, listen, I have a bad day. And then that just shows you, people mindset. Bro, you thinking like that? This man really have a bad day? The fact that a man even called you and told you that, listen, I had a bad day, this is the day I had, and then that's still your mentality, and it's something this is the thinking that we have.
Well, I definitely feel her issue, or that for the most part, is she's stuck in the system that we're living in now, that we've been talking about. First of all, a man saying they're having a bad day doesn't mean that the physical, just like you mentioned, is going to provide the resolution.
Yeah, it's not.
It could be something as simple as, by the time he gets home, have rose petals on the floor.
Simple as that.
He's going to look and say, wait, what's going on here? It's just different.
Yeah.
Dinner's cooked.
I'm gonna be honest. That sounds like a lot of cleanup.
That's fine. That's fine. You know what? I'll tell you what. When a man if anyone sees you go the extra mile just to make them happy,
they appreciate
it's worth
the thing
it.
is, it's not the food aspect or the candles. I have no problems with that. But you said rose petal. You just spent money.
What's wrong with that?
One day when you get married, you do that, and then you're gonna call me and tell me how that worked. Go ahead and say that's a lot of cleanup. If she's worth it, you're gonna do it. And trust me, if that individual's worth it, you're not going to think of the aftermath. You're gonna do what it takes to keep the fire.
Right.
Okay.
I remember my birthday, actually, last year, December. My wife took me to this spot in South Beach, and it was crazy. Beautiful night, and the end of the night, I thought that was it, because family came, met up with us. It was a surprise ordeal.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And then she had the rose petals in the room that the folks did for us. That she had a whole setup. And I'm just like, this for me? This stuff I usually do.
Right.
So I was like, this for me? Just like you mentioned with the flowers, getting the random stuff for a man. I was like, okay, all right. And immediately I thought to myself, wow, she did this for me. I'm going to make sure I surprise her when it's her time. And it wasn't even like a because you did that for me, I'm gonna do this for you. But it was more so like you saw fit to go out of your way to please me at this level, at this magnitude. I'm gonna do more for you, and it's just going to open avenues to do more. It's like when you worship God. God is a jealous God. God always says He's a jealous God. Scriptures say it. Yeah. But let me tell you something. If you give God the 2-minute prayer for 10 years of your relationship with God, you don't worship as much. There's a certain level of relationship that you have with God that's just going to be that level. Yeah. But if there's a day you say, you know what, I'm going on a fast. I'm going to seek Him. I'm going to read the Word. That's not too much. Because now there's something different you want. Right. There's another level you want to get to. There's another intimacy you want to obtain. There's another dimension, as we would say in church, that we say to ourselves, you know what? I don't want to know God just at this capacity. Yeah, I want to go further. I want to go deeper. But in order for you to go deeper, you sacrifice. You can't get the same results with the same thing. Just like you can't use old wine to get and dip it in new wine and expect something different. Right. You need new wine. In order to get new wine, you have to invest in new wine. Yeah, you have to. You talk about Mary Magdalene and people. The disciples thought like you did too when they saw Mary wiping Jesus' feet. And when they saw her wiping His feet, they thought she was extra. But it's not. Yeah. But it's not over the top. It's not extra. She knew His worth. And she knew her worth because she knew she needed something. Yeah. And you know why they thought she was extra too? Because if you do research, that alabaster box where the wine was worth an annual salary. The annual salary that it was worth was approximately $38,000. And that's a lot of money from those times. Yeah. So she brought that and she broke that and put that on His foot. Yeah. When she put that on His feet, it's not that she was. That everyone there says she was extra, but no, she knew His worth and she knew her worth. That's it. Because there's something deeper she wants to get. There's another place she wants to get. When you want upgrade in any place in life, it's always those you're gonna go that extra mile, and folks will call you extra. Folks will say, "Oh, you're just trying to get seen," and that's okay. Because you know what you want in life, because you don't want to be in the stage 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You don't want to be at this certain level. So what you got to do, there's certain sacrifices. Yeah. There are certain moves, certain things you have to make in order to get there.
And it might seem crazy.
It's going to seem, and it's okay. Yeah, because you know what? Everybody, Bill Gates was crazy. Steve Jobs was considered crazy. These people started in garages. Coca-Cola, their first year sold only, 25 sodas? Their first year. Now they're $1 billion. That's crazy. It is, because to everyone else, what you think? Oh, you only sold 25 sodas? Dude, give up. People will tell you to give up. It's just like people have come to me and say, oh, you still doing this brand thing? I'm just getting started. Because in due season, you shall reap what you sow, and your work will not be in vain. But it's okay to go that extra mile for anything that you want to build. Anything that you want to build, anything that you want to grow, you have to go that extra mile. It's just like building a home or building any structure. There's a foundation, then you keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
That's like you say, that's a part of you. So to not to invest in yourself.
Come on.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even allow someone to say, look, this is a part of me that I'm giving you. And you trust them with it so that they can give it back to you.
Correct.
That's one of the biggest things that
huge.
And it's not even being vulnerable and worrying about the cleanup or worrying about the aftermath. Yeah. You worrying about right here, right now. And what it's gonna yield you in the future.
Absolutely.
Because that like I always tell people, like, somebody's 2 cents can mean $1 million.
Come on.
You don't never know how much. Even if you don't even think it's much that you're doing. You never know how that person will appreciate it. They could be like, "Oh, this person gave me this when I needed it." You'll forever be in that person's books.
It's funny you say that. I just had a conversation, and he's so right. Just had a conversation with a friend of mine. She mentioned she's been doing hair for years. She came from Cali, and she struggled to get clients down here in Fort Lauderdale, and she was doing hair for years, but she still kept doing her thing. And then one day, this lady from, I think she said the lady was from like somewhere like Europe. The lady said, I came just for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
And
big.
she's looking like, huh? How did you find me? She said, I saw you online. She said, I saw you online. You never know who's watching.
That's true.
That's why you got to keep investing in yourself.
Big. Yep.
It's just like your relationship. You never know who's looking at your relationship for theirs to survive.
That's
Yeah.
true.
You got to keep yours.
Yeah.
You never know who's watching you.
Yeah.
So she said, the lady came from Europe and said, I came to you for you to do my hair. And she's like, really? All the stylists in Europe? You came to me? She said, yes, because I saw the passion you had for your clients.
Nice.
And there's something about passion.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing in a relationship. That's the same thing in a relationship. When you have passion for your mate,
Yeah.
sex won't be the object of it.
Nah.
It's gonna go beyond the sex. Because after we both get to that climax, if you may, and we've reached that place, and what's next?
Yeah. Definitely.
Because you didn't build anything. You didn't have that friendship. You didn't have anything. You didn't build the brand.
Yeah.
You didn't build the relationship brand. You didn't build it.
Yeah.
So that what ended up happening, the lady would come to her every so often just for her to get done and wouldn't go to anyone else. She said the lady waited 9 months before she did her hair again. She said, don't do that. That's nasty. That lady said, I don't care. You're the only one who's going to touch my hair. That's how it is with your spouse. When you treat your spouse a certain way and you show them that they're the only one, no one else will be able to influence your spouse.
Definitely.
I'm curious about something because I keep on thinking about it. Is what Minister Hayden said. He mentioned something about having a slight fear of opening up about certain things because your spouse might not be as accepting or something. How do you get out of that mindset? Because like
that's huge, and that's huge. To be honest with you, it takes a conversation. First, I would say the first thing is, if it didn't work the first time, don't revisit it right away. Couples are oftentimes the other party wants to handle it right now. If you see the enmity, you see the disgust, or you see an argument about the rise, don't try to do it right then and there. Wait some time. Then switch the approach.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, we want to address and redress in a heated argument during a heated session. That's not the time.
Nah.
We have to learn how to balance the time.
Yeah.
There's no deadline. We ain't going nowhere. We don't have to do it right now. We give it some time. We'll reconvene or we'll revisit this. That's the way life is. Life is a recycling system. So you'll revisit that system or that issue no matter what. So at the end of the day, number one, I would say give it time. Don't try to address it right there. Second thing, fix your approach the next time around. You guys maybe that environment is where the discuss is. Or maybe the environment is where that issue keeps taking place. If it's at the house, let's go out to dinner, babe.
Yeah.
Go to a special restaurant and be like, babe, I was just thinking this and that and the third is, something that I've been thinking about. And I'm not saying this because it's just the approach, how you approach it. It's different from I need you to support me more. I need you to do this in comparison to, babe, I feel like we're building and I want us to go to another level. Okay, so now she doesn't see that it's about just me. It's us. It's approach. I'm about to say the same thing as, babe, I need you to support me. In comparison to, babe, I see us growing. I see opportunities and I see a lot of potential. I feel like we're at a place we need to get to that next level. And I need you to get there.
Questions about that specific thing because I had a teacher of mine. His spouse that he married, prior to them being together, she was with somebody else. He was with somebody else also, but they ended up breaking up before I fully committed with each other.
Right.
But he was telling me that when she was younger and in the military, she had an opportunity to move up to extremely high rank. But her spouse dissuaded her to going any further. So I don't know the situation of the spouse if they were doing well or they weren't, but he dissuaded her from going to that next level. Even to this day, she kind of regrets not doing. She regrets not doing it, but she made up for it. But at the same time, every time she looks back, it's like, man, I wish I did. How do you like when you get with a spouse that's kind of dissuading you from progressing further?
Right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. That the current spouse is not the one who.
No.
Okay, so it was
Current
a previous
spouse is
one.
pushing her to do everything.
Minister Hayden answered that earlier. There's something about the power of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
She has to get to that place where she really truly moves on. But the biggest issue is a lot of us, and this was mentioned, and I think this is very crucial. A lot of us don't get to know our significant other in detail. Mm. If you get to know your significant other in detail, you get to know their ways. You'll be able to see and decipher immediately if this is someone I can grow with and who's going to push my growth, or if this is someone who's going to be a crab and keep me or bring me down. Yeah. You'll be able to decipher all of that. But if you both are physical, you won't be able to put yourself in a position to step aside to put these things in perspective. And the physical part is, it messes stuff up. Yeah. It messes a lot of things up. Yeah. I'm a man, I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah. It messes a lot of things up. Things that could have been handled a lot better, but because we crossed that bridge, because we went there, because we went there too soon, we didn't give each other a chance to build. Yeah. So what ends up happening is, in that lady's case, if she's still like regretful because of the past, if that's the question, she has to get to a place where she gets help and moves on. Yeah. That's one. And that's the power of the mind. Of course, because the mind is connected to the soul, which means that everything resides there. Yep. It's not like the spirit where you could cast it out. No. The soul, it resides there. It made its bed there. Yeah. So the regret has built a house in her. Yeah. So that's really something she has to get help with. And I'm gonna tackle that in a second, because there's a point 3 to what we asked earlier with the approach in reference to support. Second approach, we mentioned, how to have that conversation. If that doesn't work and your spouse doesn't want to listen to you, the third thing, you definitely need counseling. Both of you need counseling. There needs to be an opportunity for both of you to get to a place where there's somebody neutral who's able to say, you're right, you're wrong. And why am I an advocate for counseling now? I used to hate it. Us as men used to hate it. I used to hate. You couldn't tell me. I remember when we were engaged, my wife said, let's go to counseling. I looked at her and I said, yo, I'm good. You need counseling.
I got it all together.
Yo, I'm good. You the problem. I'm straight. See, we don't want to tell the truth. I'm good. Don't counseling. You think I need counseling? Yo, I preach. I know the word.
Yeah.
You know hermeneutics. I'm into Bible. I'm into the Ecclesiastes of this Bible. I know all 67 or 68 books in the Bible. I know all 32 some odd verses in the. Don't play with me. 1,000 verses. Don't play with me. I'm a theologian. I'm a 66. Right.
She just went extra.
Right. Just added 2 more books.
Yeah, add 2 more books.
Added the 2 more books that right. And then all of a sudden you're a theologian and you just know everything. That's how you are. You just know everything. All 68 books, all whatever, because you just know everything. You can't be told anything. And then one of my guys said, yo, you should go. I looked at him like, what do you mean? He said, no, bro, you should go. And you need people around you that's like that. That's another thing that's going to help your relationship is having honest people in your camp. If everybody's just patting your back, you have a problem.
Yeah, correct.
But how do you find a person who's unbiased though?
You'll find them, but you're gonna find them because they're gonna have that conversation with you. If somebody's always telling you you're doing a great job, Matthew, that's a problem.
No, I'm saying when you go to counseling, let's say with your spouse or whomever,
right?
How do you? Because I know that they
It's
will
kind of
come
hard
up
to
with.
explain. It's kind
Because
of hard to explain.
I
until you
tried
actually
doing
sit
it
in
once,
there.
and it's like for like a month period, and it's like I'm telling them certain things, but they're not listening. So it's like
That's what we all think when it comes to.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's-
I honestly, if that's the case, it could be two ways. Because one thing I've learned with counseling that is a true fact. We don't want to accept the truth they're telling us.
Exactly. And we find a way to kind of like
we
be
justify it
subtle with it.
and we veer from
But
it.
my
We don't
thing
want to be
is-
told the truth.
My thing is, it's more like you tell them, but they're only regurgitating stuff that you already like explained to them.
That's
like,
important.
I'm like, you're not. But the thing is, it's like when you're trying to get like an answer from them, they're just beating around the bush. So that's why I found it kind of aggravating, and I just stopped doing it.
Did you do the whole session?
I did a full month.
Only 1 month. What kind of counseling was that?
No, I tried it out. I was just testing.
Hold up. Did you do the whole all the counseling sessions that you were
The
supposed to?
person, it was only for a month.
Okay, so you didn't do the whole thing.
No, it's just
Okay.
I did it for like a month.
Because the
just
first
to
couple
test it
weeks
out,
they
and then-
trying to feel you out.
Get to know you.
And it takes
Mine's
like
8
mine,
weeks.
yeah, because mine, when we did ours, the first 3 to 4 weeks, she spent time trying to get to know us, giving us assignments, and then the last period, couple counseling sessions, that's when the truth came out. But truth is, for me, I'll tell you, towards the end of ours, it was a blessing for us.
Yeah.
In our case, we went through the whole thing. It was a blessing because it exposed stuff to my wife that she didn't know she had.
Yeah, it usually does.
She harbored so much
Yeah.
concerning me, and I was the one, acting like, I had no problems. And honestly, she exposed me, but the stuff she said to me, I was like, you know what, you're right. And I put my guards down, and I suppressed what I thought I knew. I
Was that hard
suppressed.
for you? Putting your guards down?
It's always gonna be hard for.
It was tough for me.
It's always hard, especially for a black
It
man.
was really tough for me.
It's hard for a black man to put his guards down and be told
It was
something.
tough for me.
But it ended up fixing me
Yeah.
because
Yeah, it's
now
good, it's
going
good.
forward, I'm able to have a conversation with people. I'm able to have a dialogue and listen to people,
Yeah.
and it's not just my show.
Yeah.
Because that's how you grow.
Yeah.
So I sat there and she told me about me, and I'm like, wow, she's exposing me on the table. And that stuff my wife couldn't do because I was too used to my wife.
Yeah.
We hate for someone we're used to tell us about ourselves because we oftentimes think you're not qualified to say
Yeah.
what you
To
think
tell
about
me,
me
yeah.
because you live with me or you know too much about me. But when an estranged person or where a stranger comes or someone who's neutral who knows nothing,
Yeah.
we're usually like, but, and they're like, wait. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And in the session, it exposed both of us. It allowed me to fix my wrongs. It allowed her to fix her wrongs. And I didn't want it, but it ended up working out more in my favor than hers.
Bro, I know the first, I would say, my first session, I missed my first session like 3 times.
I believe you.
Like, they called me like, oh, don't forget you got a session of, yeah, I'm going to be, yeah, all right. I already knew in my mind I was going.
Right.
Go salute.
Bro, the first day I walked up, he goes, oh, you're Mr. Hayden. Where you been hiding? I go, hey, this takes some guts, Doc.
Yeah, it
He's
does.
like, I know.
It does.
Yeah, it takes some guts.
It's
And
that
like,
first step.
Yeah, that first step is rough. And when you actually have to like you still have that man thing about you. You're like, nah, I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you gotta actually like start speaking.
Right.
Yeah.
And the hardest part is now, okay, you get there, and then now it's your turn to tell what you did wrong.
Ooh, yeah, man.
You sit there and like, oh yeah, this is what I did.
Mhm.
And then if you don't tell, she gonna tell. In certain
Right,
cases.
right.
So I was sitting like, I don't need to tell nobody nothing. First day.
I did nothing.
She said, well, he did this, that, and the third. And she's like, oh, you did? She said, I understand. And I'm looking at her like, you what? Oh, okay. So now she, like I was telling Matthew, she was getting me comfortable.
Yeah.
So she's basically repeating, so you went through this. What made you do that and this, that, and the third? And I'm like, well, since you asked, this is what happened. Now I'm opening up to her, and all the while I didn't even catch myself opening up. Before I knew it, the hour was done, and she was like, "Okay, this is what you're gonna do." And I'm like, "Wait, I just opened up to a stranger."
Yep.
But
Isn't it
it's
easier though?
that's the thing we were saying.
Yeah.
It's crazy how we can open up to a stranger, but our significant others or people we know, people that we're connected to.
I think honestly, it's to each his own because, like you said, like you tried it and it didn't work for you.
But he didn't do the full
You didn't
session.
open up.
He didn't do the full.
No,
didn't open up.
the thing is, I was willing to open up because I don't know this person. It's not like it's somebody close to me.
So you
I feel like the reason why I find it easier to open up to a complete stranger than it was to somebody I know because you run the risk of them using it against you as a weapon.
Right. Especially especially family. Family does that very well. Vulnerability. You don't want to show that weakness.
Yeah, and you know that stranger ain't gonna be able to use it or hurt you.
They don't know me.
Yeah, they're trying to pretty much help you. You know, and they can't never like turn the tables on you and get advantage on you.
Bro, in those sessions, bro, you're actually being brought back to where you're like a youth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
A kid.
And
That's
then
where it
like
starts.
it's like it breaks you down and then builds you right back up.
Right.
To where it kind of show you like who you really can be. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Like you could go to church and like somebody could prophesy and say, "Oh, I see this and this in you." But if you don't see it and you don't believe it, you ain't gonna walk in it, bro.
No, you're not.
You're gonna shy away from it.
I'm the kind of person like when I was in a youth, I got in trouble, so they forced me to go through like counselors and therapy. And I would tell them like, "How long is this gonna take?" And they'd be like, "If you don't want to like really invest in this
Yeah, let's don't come.
to help you," no, they was like, "It ain't.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And we'll do it forever. Like you on court papers mandate, like you gotta come."
So by law,
Yeah.
out
So
of obligation, yeah.
yeah. So it's like if I'm not really like and I got in my mind, I'm gonna just tell her what she want to hear. I'm gonna just cooperate with her because she want to hear it, so I could get out of there.
Out of it, right.
Yeah. But if I had to do it over again, like to this day, I would. You know, like when you watch a movie and you think you got everything, you soaked up everything out of the movie, and you see it like a year later, and you be like, "Oh, I didn't see that the first time." I would love to live my life over like that again, even in situations where I really didn't want to. Even in the bad mistakes that I made, that I don't even want to admit to anybody to this day, much alone mention it to myself, like, "Oh, I did that, man. I was dumb for doing that."
Right.
We all got that in us that we won't even share with our partners. It's just so embarrassed for us to think about it. We throw it in the back. That's why I say when you said, it brings us back and revisits us as children, man, every one of y'all, I do it myself. Go and revisit some dumb stuff you done did that you ain't telling anybody.
It's true.
And see how that really hits you. And if you could figure out a way to rework that, relive that, and to come up with, if this happened again, or if this was, and if you have a solution, you really deal with yourself on that matter. See how much stronger you'll be after you figure that out.
Right.
I don't know if any of y'all went through it, but I just want to get an idea how to handle it just for my future. Because I know that there's certain personal things that I don't want to share. But let's say you end up opening up to your spouse and you end up getting an argument a few months later, but they end up using that thing that you thought you were it was okay to open up about to them as a tool to against you. How do you deal with that and not like react negatively?
That's a very good question.
Well, the human side of you're going to want to react negative.
Right.
Because I actually told you something to kind of like make me better, you know, to move on and grow, and then now you're throwing it back in my face, you know, and, you know, if you really, like a lot of women, they're not strong enough as a man, so they know where to hit you is going to be with their words.
Right.
You know, so they're going to say stuff that's going to they're going to say, listen, that if I say this, I'm just going to bring him to his knees.
Right.
But you saying it and bringing it to my knees don't make you stand up taller than me. You understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, are you gonna find those situations? Maybe not. Are you maybe gonna have a spouse where you could tell everything and they hold it on and they try to help you and try to coach you to it? Maybe not. It just all depends on the different situations and scenarios that you're in life. I mean, is that spouse mature enough? And that's the biggest thing. Like, you could be mature on that level, and your spouse is just not mature enough.
Right.
Now, if that spouse is mature enough where they can handle that, you know, that's where you go. You can share everything and anything with them, and know that it won't get thrown back up in your face and nothing like that. But you know, everything it all boils down in your eyes. Has to do with maturity. Right? You know, is my spouse mature enough to handle this conversation now? You know, okay, I'm gonna sit down and have an adult conversation with my spouse. Is she gonna be able to handle it? You know, is she gonna be able to hear what I'm saying and notice that I came from a place where it's like, you know, I was broken. I came from a place where, you know, I was touched, I was molested, or whatever it is.
Right.
You know, and she gonna be able to, you know, to hold on to it and not wait for a time like, say, for instance, you're gonna be intimate and it doesn't stand up, and she go, oh, you're thinking about when you was, you know what I mean? And like try to throw it in your face. So,
but as you say that though, you got to understand too, because that sword swings both ways. I remember like last week or Saturday on the show, you said if you ask your wife or a woman like the body count, are you able to deal with that?
are you able
That's
to
a good
handle
question.
Huh?
That's a good question.
So the thing
That's a good question.
So the thing what I'm trying to say is if we're able to feel like we're gonna get vulnerable with our wife or whoever and tell them something, are we able to handle that backlash if they do use it against us?
Correct.
Like I say, it depends on you. It depends on your mindset if you're mature enough to handle it.
Right.
I mean, in the early stage of a relationship, can you handle it? No. But I mean, the more you grow and the more you're in, like,
But you understand the question I'm
yeah,
asking?
I understand what you're saying.
So if they use it against us,
Yeah.
are we going to be able to stand through that fire? Even though it's a vulnerable piece of our life, it's like, hey, this is my everything right here. I'm going to trust you with it. And that person destroys it.
Yeah.
What am I going to say when I'm like, I gave it to you like this and I trusted you
But then
with it?
the thing that's going to end up happening now is that for you to like, you're just not going to trust them and tell them anything no more. And that's what boils down to. That's where you lose your trust.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And we have to always keep in mind, like I said it before, like trust is lost in buckets, but you gain it back in drops. You know what I mean? Because once you lose somebody's trust, it's just like you have a bucket of water. It's like, oh, damn, you did that, boom. You know what I mean? And you're not going to give them the chance to do it again because, okay, now they come back. You know what I mean? Say, for instance, I cheat on my wife. You know what I mean? She ain't going to trust me. And she like, if I'm sitting there playing with my phone, no matter what I'm doing, what are you doing? I'm like, here, I'm going to have to be like, here, look at my phone, or my phone ring, or here, you know what I mean? And that's how you try to gain the trust back, but it's gained back in drops. Because she had that trust for you. That person had that trust for you. And the fact you broke that trust, then guess what? Everything went out the window. So now you have to try and gain it back, and it takes little drops to gain it back. And the minute you slip up and do something, then guess what? She start tipping that bucket again.
Well, you wouldn't give her 2 buckets?
You don't get 2 buckets.
Fill this up like you did last time. Even though you broke it, here go another one too. Fill that one up too. It's like
that's what we'd want to do, because the masculine side of us is like, oh, you thought you hurt me? I'm good. But it's not really a good thing, because all you really did was suppress. I am a firm believer of, you know, Mr. Hayden just mentioned a mature level, and to piggyback on what he said. There's certain things you can't share with your spouse if y'all not at that level, and she's not mature or you're not mature. Because you may not even be mature enough to share it. You need to be mature enough to share it where if it does come back, you can handle it.
You can handle it, and that's the biggest thing.
And you need to be mature enough to understand that she may not be at that level where she can handle hearing that. Baby, this is what happened. I was raped, blah, 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 at such and such age, and this is what happened. But you need to be at the place where you're healed enough. If it got back to you, you're like, okay, that's your human side coming after me. And you got to be able to distinguish the human side that's remorseful or angry, and the spiritual component, where you're like able to be spiritually equipped enough to say, you know what, that's the enemy using you to bring me back to that place. To then become reactive. You have to know when to distinguish when the enemy's busy in a situation. I remember one time my wife and I my wife was going through a process and she was arguing with me. I was like, babe, let's stop. I said, we need to catch this. Stop right now. The enemy is busy.
But you saw that in the Bible with Peter.
Just with Peter.
Jesus like, hold on. Let me deal with this enemy. Get thee behind me, Satan. Because he knew Satan stepped right in that midst.
He stepped right in the midst of that vicinity. And what was the enemy going to do? If you don't call it out quickly, he's going to keep going. She's going to keep going. So, that's why, like Mr. Hayden said, there's a maturity level you have to get to. Where are you mature enough to really share that? Because there's something you got to remember. Humans are all humans. You can't put a human at the same pedestal you put God. God is the only person that won't use against you what you did. What he's going to do is cover you with his grace. What we do as humans, though, we get to a place where we hold it. But if you do me something dirty enough, I'm going to remind you, because I'm good now because I really feel like I'm already done with you because you did me dirty enough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring that right to you because I'm gonna hurt you. Humans hurt humans. We have to remember that. Humans, we're not God. So what end up happening is we're in a position where we're like, you know what? I'm gonna kill him with this because we're in a heated argument too already.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say, oh, that's why I see why you got raped.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you like, wait a minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you say to me?
Yeah.
And immediately you as the individual have to be mature enough to say,
Very mature.
Oh, yeah.
I see what's going on.
Yeah,
And it's
that's it.
okay.
That's
And
it.
I'm healed from that. I'm good. I said and you where the conviction comes and that individual is immediately convicted because your reaction could be, oh, you what?
Yeah. And
And you never got healed from it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you in prison. It's a bigger ordeal.
Yeah.
It's a bigger ordeal.
Sometimes it's not even. It's like that. It's like you're ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something subtle.
It
right
is,
behind
but
it,
that's the
right
maturity
behind
you
it.
have to have.
Same
Matthew, this is the
difference.
thing.
Same difference.
You have to get to that place where are you mature enough to even really share it? And when I say mature, I'm co-signing on what Mr. Hayden said, and I'm also adding in the maturity phrase, healed.
Yep.
Yeah.
You heal from that
You
thing.
gotta be healed from that.
Yeah.
Because it's just like somebody who was a sex addict for 10 years of his or her life. And then after a month, they just decided, you know what, I'm sticking to one woman and I'm good. And they they just delivered.
Yeah.
Okay, bro, delivered. Listen, brother, sister, it don't happen that
don't
quick.
happen that quick.
There's a process because you know what the enemy's going to do now, because you were a sex addict all these years and you always satisfied the urge or the itch. You're gonna get to a place where even some of those same people you were doing it with gonna come in your path. You're gonna get some new people.
Yeah.
There's a new horizon because the way life is set up, it's a recycle system. Those things that you want to stray from and get away from to build, they come right back to, and that's what the enemy does. How did the enemy tempt Jesus 3 times? You know, he said, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, I'll do this, I'll do that. Because he knew that Jesus was what? In a vulnerable state. He just finished fasting and he was what? Hungry.
40 days. Yep.
That's it. Just ain't
What better way to get somebody than when they're vulnerable?
That's it.
And then he's hungry. You're hungry, which means Jesus, you exhausted yourself spiritually because you done prayed yourself out for 40 days and you hungry.
Yeah.
So Jesus from our Savior, the Messiah, is spiritually tired, physically tired.
Yeah.
And now he's at a state where he's vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's how we get God.
Nice. Yeah.
You're vulnerable.
Yeah.
So we have to remember, if you're not healed yourself, you shouldn't be sharing anything.
Yeah. True.
Brothers, sisters, you're not healed, don't share.
Yeah.
Because you may need help first.
Yeah.
Because now once you're really healed, then you could get to a place where, you know what? Remember, people are human. People aren't God. We got to remember that.
Yeah.
And humanity, unfortunately, we're created after Adam and Eve to make mistakes.
Yeah. Trust me.
It's just mistakes, which means, unfortunately, I may get to a place, man, you know how many times I was tempted to say stuff to my wife that she shared about me in her past? To say, I see why such and such did this because and then I have to say to myself, bro.
Hold on, man. You can't do that.
I'm like, bro, and you got to coach yourself. That's part of the healing thing.
Yeah.
I have
Bro.
to say to myself,
Yeah.
bro, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to ask yourself these questions. Like,
Yeah,
bro,
that's true.
Yeah.
I'm always talking to myself like, bro, what is that? What you think you're going to accomplish?
Yeah.
Now, she's going to always have her guard up.
Yeah.
I got a question. It's kind of weird, but it's my last question. What's your
I'm kidding.
What's your thoughts on relationship gossip? Because like I've noticed it where, hey, dude and his girl, they love doing it, talking about their friends and all their business, and also the girls, they talking to their friends sometimes about their personal. They don't go too deep into it, but they still share both the good, the bad, the ugly, and so forth. What's your thoughts on that?
I am a firm believer, and
do it.
all of us could attend. Not only don't do it because we know that's the worst thing you could do,
worst thing you can do.
but I really feel when you do that, you open up new doors. I'm gonna tell you why. I had a conversation, and I like to reference because reference shows reality, real life.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a guy, one of my boys. I said, let me tell you how strong demonic spirits can be. And people could think you're superstitious or whatever, but it is what it is.
It is. Yeah.
People could look at your picture with you and your spouse on a social media post.
Oh, yes.
And then say something against it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you and your spouse are having problems you never had before.
Yep.
Just off of a post.
Definitely.
So I'm not even going to get into relationship gossip. Why is it? Because the word, the tongue has so
Come
much
on now.
power.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
There's some stuff. When you, I remember I was dating a young lady. The young lady told her friend about how we vibed to her friend. All of a sudden, the friend wants to know what it is that I'm doing. Instead of the friend keeping it with the young lady I'm talking to, she's inquiring about me. Wait, I'm like, wait a minute, that's your bestie. She brought you in our home, whatever. What are you doing? You know, she brought you to our place. What are you doing? And I'm like, oh my God. So I went to the young lady. I said, what did you discuss? She started laughing. I said, no, it's not funny. Because there's some stuff you don't bring out to other folks, to anyone. First of all, what happens in the bedroom, certain things y'all do, how y'all do it. He doing this, that, and the third. And then the truth is, when you're sharing specifics with others, you don't know where they're at in their life, and they can't even get a spouse.
Yeah.
Wow.
Definitely.
And we have to remember, I think the ratio is 8-1 with women and men.
Yeah.
So some women just get to a place where they don't give a doggone crap.
Yeah.
So they're like, it's whatever for me.
Yeah.
And the loyalty or the ethical component and morale is out the window.
Oh, yeah.
So I believe it is very something that we have to really understand. You know how they talk about the universe? It ain't no universe, it's God. And then when they talk about negative energy, it's facts. It's demonic.
Exactly.
We need to call it what it is. Because the truth is, if something is said in the atmosphere, you got to remember how strong the tongue is. Jesus showed us for 7 days, 6 days, how strong the mouth is. Jesus was commanding. God was coming. Let's talk dispensation term, because Jesus wasn't mentioning it. God was speaking things.
Into accent.
Yes.
Yeah, into existence.
He was speaking things, which means if God is exemplifying the power of the tongue right there, needless to say, he said but when he came as Jesus, because Jesus is God, let's not get confused. He said, you will do greater things than I. So if I'm going to do greater, so which means I can say something too, and it comes to pass.
Yeah.
So you got to remember, it's just like if somebody is getting involved in my relationship or saying negative things against my relationship or speaking things into the atmosphere against my relationship, principalities get involved.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's going somewhere.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you just fighting. You can't get along. Things of that nature. Things that was like never an issue, now is an issue. You guys can't even vibe the same. She was once like one of the boys, your homie. You don't even vibe the same. You're like, what's going on? It's because of these things that was expressed.
Yeah.
And we have to be very careful and cognizant of that immediately. I believe that relationship gossip came from, and I'm gonna bring it back again, from that world of reality TV, putting and displaying what's going on. First of all, people, we have to understand drama sells.
Yes.
These people, oftentimes, that's not even really their real life. No. Drama sells. They're trying to earn a salary. They're trying to stay relevant on TV. Okay? So oftentimes we think, oh, that's the way to be. And they make you think that's being real. The realest person is the one who doesn't respond or who doesn't speak their lives to everyone.
That's it.
The only person you need to be speaking your relationship to, if it's not your pastor, if it's not a counselor, it's someone who you guys have like trust in, who's going to hold you guys spiritually and always keep y'all in prayer. There's like a spiritual accountability group where you all can confide in this individual and you know that's where it stays. It's going to the heavenlies. Other than that, there's no reason you be speaking about the finances. Like I see women online posting, they get new bags, new Fendi bags. Their dudes buying it. Man, listen, these are the things you keep to self. Because when you develop that envy amongst people, you open up a horizon of things. You open a horizon of things, and all of a sudden your relationship starts to go into shambles. So I really believe, Matthew, what's going on in our society today, as we mentioned, the infrastructure is not sex. It's because the relationships are really built on sex. And what does it do? It blinds the real ordeal. Yeah. It blinds what could have been something. Yeah. You never got to develop the friendship component. You know, oftentimes we as men, we don't develop a friendship with a woman first. Because all we do, we got caught up on how thick she was or how sexy she looked. Yeah. Like, yo, she a baddie. Yeah. But we never got a chance to say, you know what, let's talk. Spend hours talking. I just want to hear you breathe on the phone. I just want to talk to you. Just vibe. That puppy love. And you never got to build. Yeah. All you guys did was got into the skins, and you guys didn't really get to develop a real foundation. Something real. And that's really the biggest issue. And that's why sex is manipulative and abused the way it is. You know, and it can be. Yeah. You know, so ultimately I really feel like in this day and age, it's just something that just needs to continuously be talked about, and we shouldn't be afraid to discuss it, and at any form, any platform. Yeah. But the deliverance will come when people come to a place where they really evaluate themselves. Yeah. It's really inevitable. You have to check yourself, and I always check myself.
Man, I check myself daily, man.
There you go.
Sometimes things come up and you want to react, and you go, you know what? I always try to tell myself, like, you control the situation. Like, it could go left or right now because of one thing you say.
One thing.
Just one simple thing.
And you may not even be able to recover.
Exactly. But sometimes once you send that word out, it's a wrap.
That's it.
You know, you can't come back. You know, just like if you have a gun and you shot it, you can't say, "Hold on, bullet, come back." Oh, it's too late now. A lot of people get messed up because of that.
Absolutely.
You know, and we have to understand, you know, as individuals and as believers, that listen, like, don't think like what they always say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words don't hurt.
That's a lie.
Words hurt.
They do. They do.
Words hurt. You know what I mean? And you know when you hear some words get thrown at you, sometimes you know that's where you have to be. If you're mature, you gonna be like, you know what? I control the situation right here. You know that's where you gotta just lean on that Holy Spirit and just slow. Like I always try to slow time down and see if I can. For real. To see if I can just get in control and just process things in my mind real quick, because the flesh side of you just want to like, yo, like who you talking to? Yeah. You know, and then the spiritual man inside you like, yo, chill out, process it. Yeah. You know,
and you gotta know the enemy's busy.
He's always busy.
The enemy's busy. He's right there, in that actual vicinity where you both are. The enemy is busy.
Busy, man.
Just like, yo, you gotta. I remember. I promise you, I remember this like vividly. I was like, babe. I'm holding her. I said, stop. The devil is busy, and I've never done that. And then she looked at me like, huh? I'm like, no. We were just making jokes. Yeah. The enemy's busy. We got to catch the enemy when the enemy's busy. Oh, yeah. And she looked at me like, wow. What's okay, wait. Yeah. Because now what was really going to happen, she was going to say what she's going to say. I'm then going to respond, or I'm going to say what I'm going to say. She responds. And it was going to be, and truth of the matter is, it's just, we need to understand that we're at a place, when you get to that place of growth, you get to that place where you're like, you know what, I'm able to see where it is that we need to be. I'm able to see where it is that this is the place that we as a unit need to function. Let me tell you something. There's nothing impossible. I've seen couples that finally got together, now they're multimillionaires.
Yep, it could happen, man.
Because they finally worked together. Yeah. You know, I know this one guy now, he's so smart with it. His wife is attractive, and he's like one of those secure guys. He's good. His wife's the brand. She models his brand.
There you go.
And dudes are in her DM, all this that. And he has no problem. He's good because she knows her husband, he knows his wife. Yeah. You both get to that place. And what did that do? They modeled their brand. Okay, their brand was a clothing brand, selling out. Then all of a sudden they got into the real estate world. She's the one that goes to do the stuff. She's attractive. And they're now multimillionaires. They use their gifts and they worked together. Yeah. If everyone gets to that place where they're like, you know what?
Unstoppable.
You're unstoppable at that point. Yeah. We know who we are. Our relationship has a better foundation.
So true.
We could build on it. There are no limitations.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. There aren't any limitations at that point. You know?
Well, man, Matthew's been quiet tonight, but it's all good.
Hey.
I guess some nuggets was dropping. He was processing it.
Yeah,
But yeah, Minister Amon, final thought.
Yeah, as far as anything could be weaponized or used as manipulation.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot with things that people find like, I guess, value in, or maybe a desire for. You see what I'm saying? And it's hard sometimes to just cut off that desire, or like people like to say, nip it in the bud.
Right.
It's sometimes hard to do that, to nip something in the bud before it could flower out and pollinate or whatever, those terms and speaking there are. But I would just say, like we were speaking about a lot, if we were to really see, the things that in the physical are cutting away from our spiritual growth and development.
Right.
The intangible things.
Right.
I'm not talking about the things that we could just identify as, we can see it, we can touch it, we can taste it, we can smell it. We know what it is. It's some things that are hidden from us. And the only way we're going to find out is when we do cut off what we can see.
Right. And
what we know. And like you said, by faith or believe that God does have a better for us. There is no one that enters into our life for vain, for no purpose. There's always a purpose of something, the way the wind is blowing. If you go out there and you get soaked, if you get in a car accident, it wasn't to destroy you. It was to push you further. It was to accelerate you. It was to give you some strength that you didn't have before. And if we can really get strong that way spiritually,
absolutely,
and cut off, the weapon of the enemy, the things that he uses to try and take us out and kill us, we will find our purpose.
Absolutely.
So I just ended saying, just try and not let things be your enemy, man. Just try and like embrace it and grow off of it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Brother Matthew.
That's crazy, man.
It's crazy out here.
Hey, that's a blessing right there. Thank you for that. Man, control. It's a crazy thing, man, because it's like in life, there's, especially when you start looking towards a relationship, people always talking about who's wearing the pants of the house and why you so submissive, and so I feel it's a back and forth.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, even in the Bible, they said that person's supposed to be your helpmate. In other words, they're supposed to help complement you when in your weak state.
Bingo.
And it's like you're supposed to help compliment them when they're in their weak state with your strength.
Yeah.
So it's like not everybody's relationship will work out the same way. Yes, you guys argue, but at least you get your point across. And that's one thing I had to learn. Like I had to learn is like sometimes that argument is positive and it helps push this situation forward. And it's like it's not always good to hold in a lot of things, because at the end of the day, you end up destroying yourself more than you helping yourself. And that's something I had to learn to start doing. Is like don't internalize everything. It's like when you're in that moment, try to express it in a way where people can understand, because you could express it in a way where nobody understands, and it's like but yourself, and then it's like you end up regretting it afterwards. Again, personal experience. So that's why it's like you just gotta learn. If you gotta talk it out, where it's like you gotta go to that gym real quick and then talk it out. Make sure that you clear the air, because it's like it's best that everybody have a good understanding of what's going on.
Right.
That's it.
Dr. George.
Definitely agree, and again, privileged to be here with my brothers again, for sure. Always a pleasure to be with you all. Thank you. I definitely feel like nothing is an accident. The relationship you're in is not an accident. The issues and the circumstances that you've gone through weren't an accident. These are all experiences that had to happen to build and develop who you are and who God has created you to be and where you're going to be. So ultimately, in a nutshell, we discussed a lot of areas. We discussed a lot of things. But, as we mentioned, the infrastructure of relationship, the foundation has to be changed. Oh, yeah. And God gave us the best example as a husband to the bride, which is his church, the compassion he had, which means he gave his life. Yeah. And before you can get intimate with anybody or anything, you have to be able to show yourself approved. In other words, that you're willing to give your life. You're willing to go above and beyond to make it work. So ultimately, I just want to remind folks that no matter where you at, no matter what you've been encountering in these last days, especially during this COVID period, you're quarantined, you're held together. Don't call it quits. Don't just call it quits. Go through the process. Learn to love again. Learn each other. Build a friendship. Learn to like each other simply, and just remember that you're still qualified. You're still qualified for love. You're still qualified to live a good life. You know, God didn't create no mistake. He didn't make a mistake, and nothing that you're going through is a mistake. But it's just there to build you, equip you, and allow you to get to that next level that you were created to be, and just work together to make it happen.
Definitely.
And that's all.
Wow, man. You know, we touched a lot of areas tonight. You know, and you know, we gotta understand that we can't control nobody with just a body part. You know what I mean? Just like, you know, they always say to the men, like, what are you bringing to the table? You know, I can't just say, okay, I'm bringing this to the table. You know what I mean? It's more to it than that. You know, it's love has to be a factor.
Absolutely.
You know, trust has to be a factor. You know, and like what you just said tonight make a lot of sense to me. You have to actually like the person.
Right.
And, you know, we could easily say, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. But when's the last time you look at somebody and say, you know what, I like you? You know, it would kind of like switch things up and make things different. You know, so you can't control a relationship, you know, with just sex. And don't think like sex is going to get you out of any situation or get you out of anything that happened or anything that will happen. You know, and, you know, it also, to me, like, you know, get to know your spouse.
Right.
And not only get to know your spouse, but surprise your spouse sometimes, whether it be male or female. But I'm talking mostly to the males because we don't get the surprise. You know, we don't get the things that people think is feminine because we're so masculine. Like, oh, flowers is this, flowers is that, or a box of chocolate is this. You know, it means a lot to us when we get something. That's to show that you appreciate. Now, if you think we just appreciate because of sex, then you have a wrong mindset. You know, and when I look at 90% of the books that's written about men, they're written by women. They don't really ask men to input. You know, so when you read those books, you know, like 10 ways to please a man or 10 ways to date a man or what's the perfect man, that's being written by a woman. You know, so, you know, we have to be, you know, careful what we're reading and what we think. Like the quick surveys that they have in these books, you know, how to understand a man, that's written by a woman.
And the hypothesis not even developed.
Yeah, so if you really want to know a man and you're in a relationship with a man, you know, and that's your spouse, you know, just have an adult conversation with him. And he will open up to you. And he will tell you, you know, like X, Y, and Z, you know, all the way down to the line. Yeah, he'll talk to you. You know, men will open up, but you have to give them the opportunity to do that and let them, you know, be on that mindset. Like, listen, I could talk to you, and it's gonna stay right here.
Right.
You know, and that's where, like I said earlier, it comes from maturity. You know, so don't just like, you know, be stuck, you know, in the old mindset like the man is supposed to do everything or the man is supposed to bring flowers and all that. We have to start breaking ourselves out of our mindset to understand that men do appreciate, you know, those good things too. You know, it's not just for women. You know, so whenever you find a spouse and you're going through some things, and the biggest topic we talk about tonight, you know, is like stuff being thrown at you in your face. You know, like let the past be the past.
Right.
You know, just leave it alone. You know, you might be tempted to throw it at them. You know, and you know, it's like you said, it comes from healing. You know, I was told something a couple years back. You know, and if I wasn't healed from it, it would have still bothered me up to this day.
Right.
And like to me, at this point, it's like it is what it is. You know, because you know I was at a place at that point where you know I was like mostly relying on the Holy Spirit and trying to get to know the Holy Spirit because a lot of people say they have the Holy Spirit, but do you really know the Holy Spirit? You know what I mean? It's easy to walk around and say, oh, I have Jesus, I have the Holy Spirit, I have this, but do you know the Holy Spirit? And the Holy Spirit started to reveal some things to me, like, listen, like, you know, because of the way, you know, you actually reacted and this like that, you know, you force an individual to do something different. You know what I mean? So we always have to take a step back and always consult the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit will reveal to you, you know, reveal to you, like, yourself. You know, really, if you really sit back and look at it, just like Minister Amon said, you ever look at something you think about, you're like, man, I did that. You know, and trust me, I do that. Like, some days I be sitting there, not even thinking about nothing, and something come in my mind. I'm like, why did I even come in my mind?
Right.
You know, it's just that the Holy Spirit remind you, like, yo, I took you from this.
Yeah.
You know, you did this foolishness, and the other people did this, and you know where they're at right now? And look at you. You be able to sit down and watch your TV, cocked up on your couch or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to get to understand the Holy Spirit that we do really carry that's inside of us, and understand that Holy Spirit is something serious and not something to take for granted.
Right.
You know, am I able to see or walk through walls yet? No, but I'm working on it. You know, I just want to, you know, take it one step at a time and one day at a time. You know, so, man, let's just, you know, appreciate who we have around us, love who we have around us, you know, and, you know, also make sure that, you know, whoever is around us, that we love them and love them genuinely and unconditionally.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I always believe, you know, it's like what you put out is what you should get back. And if you're not getting it back, then you need to start, like, really having some conversations with your spouse or your mate. Because whatever you're putting out, they should see and feel the love and want to return the same thing back. You know, so one of our viewers said that Coca-Cola didn't, oh, that was a false post. They sold nine Cokes a day for the first year out of a store and pharmacy. So they said that post was fake. Okay, whatever.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll
Thanks.
move on. Yeah, it's good to be corrected. We appreciate that. But yeah, even though still selling 9 Cokes a day for a year, and then compared to what they're selling now, it's just a mess. It's just sticking there no matter what. I don't know if that sign is ever real. The Amazon sign, when he was just sitting there with the one computer and it had Amazon written on the wall.
There was a couple of things. I've actually seen that number more than one. It wasn't just a post. I've seen it several places. So it's to be debated. But ultimately,
I always see the Amazon picture where he was just sitting there with a computer and the sign said Amazon, and he's like, look where he started from, and look at Amazon now. So no matter what it is, you know, stick with it, you know, get through it, you know, and you'll see the difference.
They had humbling beginnings.
Humbling beginnings. There you go.
Yeah.
And we all have.
That's the
humbling
apex
beginnings.
of it. Yeah.
You know, just like a relationship, you have your humbling beginnings.
Humbling
Like,
beginnings.
what we talked about last week, it's like a ship, man, on top of the water.
Yeah.
That's what relationships are, man. You're gonna go up, you're gonna go down, you're gonna go through them waves. You're going to get knocked over sometime, and guess what? The ship are always going to come back. Well, most of the time it comes back up.
Well, it's that time.
Oh, man, you're going to go this week.
No, I'm just like,
Yes.
this light. Though.
He has an
It's
encounter with destiny.
This light, though. It's
The
like,
light. Oh, not.
like-
Oh, your light. Well, anyway, it's been awesome. It's been real. It's been just a conversation. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube. Just a Conversation, and also in every podcast platform that's available. You can find us on there. Just type in Just a Conversation. Also on Instagram, just_a_conversation. Don't forget you can check out Dr. George Fabre book on Amazon right now. You know what I mean? Just type in Disqualified and it will pop right up. And you can hit him up on
Appreciate it.
on Facebook, you know, which is
Dr. George Fabre or IG, which is Dr. G Fab FAB. I am Dr. G. .fab. I'm sorry.
There
So
you
it's
go.
I am Dr. G. .fab.
I am Dr. G.
Fab.
on Instagram.
And for any business, social, or even questions that you want to throw at us, what's the website?
Just a Conversation 1@gmail.com.
That's it.
Nice.
But it's been awesome. It's been really just a conversation. We say hashtag
Talk about it.